morning. It's just before noon and I am going to clean some beets. I went to our community garden yesterday and last night late, and I picked a bunch of beets. And I'm going to can just plain beets today, not the pickled beets that I want to make, but I need to have some more just plain vegetables in my pantry, and we like beets. And I know that beets are controversial for some people. Some people think they taste like dirt or they don't like them, but we really like them. We also, I like if I have nice, clean, not, you know, these are really nice beet greens here. I will cut the beet greens off and I feed them to my chicken some, but I also love to add them to salads, or I like to saute them with some olive oil and garlic, and they're such a good side dish. I like it better than spinach actually. So I am going to cut my beets and I'm going to leave the root end on, and I am going to leave a few inches of the stems here, because when I boil, after I wash these beets and then I boil them, they don't bleed out as much and they keep the pretty color for when they're in the jars, and that's what makes beets so nice. So today at Pike Creek Farm, we're going to be pressure canning beets, and I just thought I would cut these off outside because the dirt will be out here that way. So I'm going to keep trimming these beets and I will bring you inside when I take them inside to wash them and how I prep everything. So here's to beets. Here's a sink full of the beets. This is what I have after all the greens are cut off. I am going to wash all these, rinse them off first, and then I will let them soak a little bit and scrub them to get all the dirt off. See, here's that one. It doesn't look good. That one's going to the side. You want to make sure that your produce that you're canning is the highest quality. You don't want to can things that have rotten spots or are bad at all, because then your canned goods aren't going to be good. So I'm just getting the loose dirt off right now, and I am going to put the plug in the sink and let them soak. I'm going to fill a big pot with water and start heating on the stove, and these will go in there to heat up and get fork tender. Cold water on them. I'm going to move them to the other side and let them cool so I can touch them or to flip off the skins. Wash this pot I used and scrub it so there's no dirt or anything left in it, and put some fresh water in it, and that's what I will use for my beets when I can. I'll heat this up on the stove. You don't want to use that old dirty water, you want fresh water. I have a bowl down here I'm going to put the beets in after I peel them. I'm going to put the peels, I have a garbage bowl here. We live in the country, don't have a garbage disposal. Live on a septic, so scraps go in here. Chickens get a lot of that stuff. So what I want to show you is when you cut the end off, and the other end. Oh, and I should have my gloves on, because see, look at how I'm turning red. I'm gonna put some water over here. The skin just peels off. You don't even have to use a knife or anything. It just all comes off. And you're left with just a beautiful red beet. So I am going to keep cutting the ends off. Take. Okay, we are all set. I'm sure you can see me. I like to do mine sliced. That's about how wide. You can also do it in chunks or dices. And if you have too big of a rounder ones, you can cut the slices in half. My mom used to can beets, but she was afraid of pressure canners. And she water bathed them, which is not acceptable anymore, and I don't think it really was then. But I remember you had to pressure can them for hours and hours, not pressure, sorry, water bath can them for hours. And I did try gloves, and I don't have enough control, I feel. These are slippery, so I will go and have to wash my hands and have some stains for a while. You can do these in quarts too, but there's only 2 of us here. And usually from a pint we'll have some leftovers. And if we have more people and want more, I can just open up 2. But beets are like potatoes. They grow in the dirt, and that's where botulism spores can be. So you want to make sure you get them totally peeled. If there's like this one, you can see I had to cut a little. There was like a deeper part of the skin here that wouldn't come off, wouldn't peel off, so I sliced it off, because that would make it a place that, you know, could store the botulism spore, and we don't want any risk of that. Okay, there's the first one done. I have a half a teaspoon here, and I'm not going to do them full all the way. I might as well put salt in the other ones. So there's the first jar filled. Let me get these other ones filled, and then I will show you what's next. Oops. I put a towel down for a couple of reasons. 1, the jars won't slide. 2, if the beets fall on the counter, I won't have a stain. I use a little paring knife to cut mine. You can put them on a cutting board and cut it that way. This is just the way, and I haven't had to use the funnel yet either. It's been easy to fill them. So I'm taking it up to this bottom rim here. When I pour the water in and debubble, we might need to put a couple more in, a small slice, but we will find out at that point. I've never had the diced beets. I guess it's just what you're used to when you're growing up. My mom always bought the slices or the whole ones, and so that's what I've always done. And that's how I can them, and that's how she did too. Diced might be easier for kids to eat. Do your kids like beets? Now both of my children do. My daughter more than my son. But I was very fortunate. Both of my kids would eat pretty much any vegetable. But we always had them in the house, and my mom did too when they would go over there. So, okay. I'm gonna rinse my hands and I will come back. We're now ready to fill these up to the 1 inch mark with the hot water here. You hear it bubbling, so you know there's going to be some air bubbles in there. I'm going to get a spoon out. I put too much in. We want it to go to the 1 inch. So with your debubbler, it's marked, and the 1 inch is the biggest. So let's debubble and see if it goes down. Oh yeah. All the way around. If you have young kids that are old that want to help, this is a good job for them to do. Now we need to wipe off this rim. If you look, there is some piece of beet right there. So we're going to get that all clean. No, this could have a little bit less. I'm going to take this one big beet slice out. Make sure the beets are covered and still at the 1 inch mark. So I'm going to wipe it again. I have my lid. And look how pretty. The color is just so beautiful. So I put this in the bottom. Oh, you know what I forgot? I forgot to put in my bottom rack. You never want to put your canning jars directly in the bottom of your pressure canner or your water bath canner. So I gotta put my rack in the bottom. And I have a second one because mine's a 23 quart Presto. I can double stack pints. So if I go beyond the bottom level, I will be double stacking today. So hot water. Bubbles are coming up. I don't know if you could see that. That one out. Add some more water. Bubble again. Make sure they're underneath the liquid. Wipe. This gives you a good chance to make sure there's no chips on the edge of your jar either. That would make it not seal. When you put on the ring, I just do it finger tight. Don't crank it real tight, just till it stops. I have 6 on the bottom. I have 3 more, so I'm going to put my shelf in, and I will put 3 more jars on top. Follow the directions for your pressure canner. Mine is a Presto 23 quart that's for induction or flat top stoves. And you line up these arrows and then you turn it. And you need to use 2 hands, but I will twist it on now. So as you can see, the handles all line up. So what I'm gonna wait for now is for a lot of steam to come out of this pipe, and it has to do it for 10 minutes. I always set my timer. And then after that, I will put the weight on there. And when it starts to do a hula dance, when the pressure rises, it will start to jiggle. And we want it to do kind of like a hula dance. You don't want it to go crazy. Here is mine. And mine is a 10-pound weight. That's what's needed. There is 1 more ring on this to go to 15 pounds if I lived at a higher elevation. It's hard to see in my kitchen, but the steam is coming up. And it feels like a freight train, you know, full steam coming up. I got my timer set on 10, and it will evacuate all the extra air out of there, so it will come up to pressure. Timer went off, and I just plopped on the weight, and it has to build up pressure inside, and then it will start to wiggle and jiggle, and you don't want it to go too crazy. My gauge will go up to about 10 pounds, so it kind of corresponds. When that gets up to there, then the weight will start to jiggle, but you ignore, ouch, don't touch the pressure canner. You ignore the gauge and just go by the jiggler if you're using the jiggler. Okay, ready to put the timer on for 30 minutes. I'm going to lower the temperature some so that the regulator goes a little slower and doesn't go any faster than this. Timer is going off. Time to turn it off and turn off the heat, and I just let this set now until the pressure comes back to 0 and the lock drops. Then I will remove the lid, and you wait at least 5 minutes before you remove the jars so everything can even out the temperatures. It is dropped, so now I'll remove that. And there's no whoosh, no sound, so that's a good thing. That means that the liquid isn't leaving the jars. So now I'm gonna wait about 5 minutes, and I will take the lid off. Good morning. This is the next day, and everything has sealed, but I did want to show you I did have some siphoning. You can see the liquid is down to here. There's a few jars. This one's down to here. Just fine. These are all okay because they're over halfway. This is my lowest one. So I'll use this jar first. I know what I did. I adjusted the temperature on my stove at one point, and I think the fluctuation was too much. And I don't normally do that. Don't know why I did yesterday, but lesson learned. I won't do that again. So you can see the liquid went down a little bit there. Some of it might have absorbed into the beets too, but if this happens to you, as long as you have at least half the liquid left in a jar, and this is my lowest, and it's just above the half, the jars are safe. This above here might get discolored, so I will, use that jar pretty quick. I'll use that right away. And the other ones that are a little low, I'll put them to the front, so I use them first. And then the ones like this, I will use, you know, later in the year. You can see I have some hard water deposits. I haven't washed these yet. I gotta take the rings off and soapy hot water wash all these in a wash around here, especially since there was some siphoning. You know, you don't want it to get yucky on the outside and get black or anything. So they turned out really nice, except for some siphoning. And it happens, and I'm pretty lucky it doesn't happen too often with me, but it did happen with my beets. And this was my first time canning beets without my mom, actually. It's been many years. And so anyway, here they are. I hope to do another batch yet, so I have, this is 10 jars. I'd like to have 20 for the winter. So just wanted to bring you back and give you an update on how it all turned out. And see you next time at Pike Creek Farm.